Perhaps the single most urgent problem of our time is religious arrogance. The view that because somebody doesn't share my beliefs, they don't count in this universe. Their whole existence rests on a mistake, and therefore they can be eliminated. In today's world, we desperately need to encourage every great religious tradition to look into its own teachings and focus in on unlimited love, a love for all people without any exception, regardless of belief, of gender, of ethnicity. We need to get to the oneness of a shared humanity, the oneness of honoring joyfully the dignity of every human being without any exception, including people with cognitive disabilities, the deeply forgetful, and all of those kinds of people. Unfortunately, that vision of oneness, which is here in this picture, people of every tradition coming together. We're not talking about one religion, heaven help us. All these religions are great, they all have wonderful teachings. The point is, can we get them to look within their own resources and focus in on a love for all humanity? Now, human beings tend to seek oneness. They can seek it this way. They can seek it through love for a shared humanity. Getting beyond all these in-group, out-group conflicts. Or they can seek it through extermination, genocide, brutalism, and hatred. You know, if you look at human history, if you look at big history, as they say, you will discover that genocide is as old as the hills. Wipe out even the women and children. The people who really loved all humanity, they've always been a threat to those who love just some little fraction of humanity and hate all the rest. So think about it. Rabin loved Jews, he loved Muslims and Christians and everybody, and he was killed by an extreme Jew. Martin Luther King loved everybody. He wrote about how we're all connected, how what happens to me affects you. And I'll tell you something, with the refugee situation across Europe right now, everybody knows that what happens in Syria affects them right in Munich, or in Vienna, or in Detroit, or in Brazil. You can't separate yourself anymore from the whole of humanity. Martin Luther King was killed by a white supremacist. Mrs. Bhutto loved people from every tradition, and she was killed by Islamic extremists. Gandhi loved Hindus, he loved Muslims, he loved Christians, and he was assassinated by a radical Hindu. So this is a long list. Malala, the Nobel Prize laureate, was shot in attempted assassination because she was going to school. She was shocked by extremists who really don't represent, in my opinion, the real tradition of their faith, but rather something that is a distortion. Fundamentalisms are dangerous things because as soon as we begin to assume that people who don't believe exactly what I believe, and people believe everything, and some of it's pretty strange. People don't believe what I believe. Somehow they are expendable. They can be exterminated. We're living in that world now. So what do? You know, there are young people who are getting caught up in these extremist realities. When I was a boy, you know, sure, you know, it was interesting to watch the Hare Krishnas go down the streets of San Francisco in their wonderful saffron robes. And it was great to have free curry rice dinners at their centers on Wednesday nights. There were all kinds of movements and organizations around. And for the most part, it was very creative, I think. But what we see now is very destructive. We all have our spiritual journeys, and I really believe in the freedom of a person's spiritual journey. I am extremely open-minded about different perspectives, but when this spills over into hatred and violence, that's where we have to draw a limit. So we need the oneness that's in this picture. Can we get to it? Well, we have to get to it because there's so much destructive technology available in the world today, and almost anybody can get a hold of it. That we either have a massive human transformation toward pure, unlimited love, as it exists within these traditions, and have people talking across their traditions in friendly ways about their conceptualizations and their practices and their role models and exemplars of unlimited love. That's what we need. And if we can choose love instead of violence between religions, human progress is going to be extraordinary. There's really no reason to limit your vision of what we can achieve in creative, free love. But if we continue to be hampered and limited by religious arrogance, the future is in question. All human progress, economic and social, is in question. So we need to be people of courage. I'm not saying everybody needs to get assassinated. Although for some people who were called to it in a special way, you know, Martin Luther King wasn't looking for a bullet. He felt called toward the civil rights movement, and regrettably, a bullet found him. That's a big difference. It's a big difference. Rabin wasn't looking for a bullet, but unfortunately it found him. He accepted the possibility, though, with courage. So most of us, you know, will go through our lives, and I'm not thinking that we should be imperiled, but I would say that we need to come together around an idea like pure unlimited love, because it has no special association with any one religious tradition. That's why Sir John Templeton wrote a little book called Pure Unlimited Love, an eternal force in all spirituality. It's something that everybody can connect with, whatever their tradition is. That's why I don't have an institute to study agape love. I appreciate agape love in the Christian tradition, but I don't want people to think that this is just Christianity trying to, sort of impose itself on other traditions. So pure unlimited love is the language game that we use. And we actually, this is a serious issue, about a year ago on November 10th of 2014, I was actually up in Potomac Hills in Westchester County, New York, north of New York City, giving a lecture on Chagall's window of the Good Samaritan. I drove home that night and I had an email from Durraiz Ahmad, who's a very famous and very progressive Islamic scholar in Lahore, Pakistan. And the email said, "Stephen, your website has been hacked." And I went to the website. It's www.unlimitedloveinstitute.org. And there it was, the ISIS flag. And it said Team DZ ISIS. And we were only the third or fourth website in the United States anyway to be hacked. Since then there have been many hackings, but we were hacked very early on because we have a newsletter that just talks about unlimited love, love for all people as the core value of all true spirituality, and that it's hard to even say that a religion is quote-unquote a religion if it teaches hatred. Well, I have a lot of friends in the Middle East. Some of them are Sufis who really believe in love and so forth. So this electronic newsletter got around, and lo and behold, there it was. So it took us several weeks to get the website back up because there was a lot of damage. It cost some money. And I wasn't sure what to do. Then it came to me in the summer, several months later. Why don't we have a worldwide youth essay contest focused on religious freedom, freedom of conscience, and love, unlimited love for all humanity? So we put out an announcement, and we have had hundreds and hundreds of essays submitted. I brought this up at a UN meeting some weeks ago, the special group at the UN interested in spirituality, and we're actually planning a conference focused on the winners of this competition at the UN in the Dag Hammarskjöld Center, which is right near those Chagall Peace windows. And essentially the reality is that we are not going to solve the problems of conflict and destruction in the world if we ignore spirituality. It's just no longer a credible idea. The idea that somehow secularism is going to solve the problem by ignoring religion, it's not working, because 95 to 98% of the people on the face of the earth have some kind of religion and spirituality. And when that goes wrong, when it deviates from the ideal of pure unlimited love, we got real trouble, real trouble. And so when the UN looks at its future, it has to go back to its beginnings. The first Secretary General of the UN was Dag Hammarskjöld. He was a mystic, he was a Lutheran. He wrote a book called Markings about his experiences of divine love. And Chagall's Peace Windows, which were placed in the UN in 1964, were to commemorate Dag Hammarskjöld after his death in an airplane crash over the Belgian Congo. But we need to call every religion to its highest ideal of pure unlimited love. And the moment we can fulfill that, then the human future is one of flourishing. Until we can fulfill that, the human future is insecure.